Hey y'all, I hope you're doing well today or tonight. I've got another ramble for y'all this evening. Tonight's trigger of choice has been done before, but not necessarily with this exact one. So, here I have my book binding that I've been working on, and I think it makes some nice sounds. This one's a little bit thicker than my last one, so I think it might it should make some slightly deeper sounds. So let's give that a quick test, shall we? So, I can't quite remember if I already mentioned it or not. I don't think I have, but my original attempt at the book binding that I've been working on was not successful. The actual binding process was fine, but when it came to tooling in the design, the design that I had made was far too fine. So I drew it with pencil first, and it just, it looked great on paper, but it didn't transfer very well to leather tooling because it was just a little bit too fine to get right with my swivel knife. So ultimately, the lettering was really the kryptonite to the whole thing. I just made the font far too small, which, it was impossible to get a nice, sharp, imprint with my tools. So, I ended up having to scrap it. But that is okay, because I learned a bunch of different things from that first attempt that I made. So I learned so many things that I didn't know previously. So this second attempt has gone far smoother and has produced a far better looking binding than the original attempt. So it was, I like to call them growing pains. I spent a lot of time on that first binding, and it didn't work out. So I had to scrap it, and that sucked. But I learned a whole lot from the mistakes I made. So, yeah, it was not a waste of time by any means whatsoever. I even learned quite a lot on the second go-around. Unfortunately, I believe the leather that I chose isn't a great fit. It's a bit dark, so the tooling just doesn't stand out very much. Now, I haven't tooled this new attempt yet, but it's the same color and comes from the same hide as my first attempt, so it's gonna look the same as far as the color goes. And yeah, it's just a far darker green than what I was expecting. Still looks nice, but it's not exactly what I had envisioned. Not only that, but it's slightly too thick for bookbinding. I was still able to wrap the book board in leather and get nice chamfered edges. I'll show you real quick. Actually turned out great. Let's see. Yeah, look at that edge. Nice and clean. So, that wasn't necessarily... It's not that it didn't work. It's more so that the leather is so thick that it's almost bending the boards because there's so much tension from stretching the leather over it, as well as the spine creases right here and here, or they look very nice when the cover's flat like that, but when you bend the spine, or when you close the book, it gets a little muddied up. You'll notice it kind of gets thicker towards the top. And that is because the leather is so thick that it doesn't stretch as easy. It doesn't want to, and it can't be molded quite as tightly as a thinner leather. Now, I had purposefully gone with a slightly thicker leather, so I could get a nice engraving, or do some nice tooling on the leather. And I didn't want to cut clean through it. However, I can certainly go thinner and still be able to tool it without cutting through or compromising the integrity of the leather. So, I'm gonna finish this book. I think I'll be able to fully complete it this time without having to scrap the project. But I expect two things. The first thing is that the design is going to be a little difficult to see because of how dark the color of the leather is. The second thing I expect is that the book will not be able to stay closed by itself because the leather is so thick it naturally to pull the boards open. But that's okay. I didn't expect this first one to be perfect, and I've learned so much about the process by doing this. So, the next book I bind is going to be even better than this one because the leather will be thinner. So, the creases will be a lot more dramatic and hold their shape better, as well as allowing the book to close and, well, stay closed, rather, which is good, of course. And I'll get something a little bit lighter in color. That way, the tooling I do will pop off on the page a bit more. So not all is lost. Thankfully. I think the only problem that I foresee with that plan of action that I just talked about is that the leather will certainly be quite a bit thinner, and this leather is already pretty thin. So I'm going to have to be very, very careful and very, very precise while using my swivel knife so I don't cut through the leather. So the tooling is already pretty careful work at this thickness. The thickness I plan to do, this is about 1 millimeter thick. I plan to be working with half of that, about half of that, so half a millimeter thick leather. That's pretty precise work. But I'm up for the challenge. A lot of folks say that you can't tool leather that thin. It might not be the easiest thing in the world, but I assure you, it is certainly possible. I have done it a few times myself. Not on books, but other items. So, I know I can make it work. I'm just gonna have to go low and slow and be very patient. Very, very patient. But yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing to improve my craft. The next book that I plan to bind is actually gonna be the Wheel of Time series, starting of course with the first book called The Eye of the World. I finished the first one, and actually today I finished the second book in the series, and no spoilers, of course, but wow, I gotta say, it was fantastic. Really, really good book. I mean, it built so well upon the first one, and revealed and explained so many things that I had questions about in the first one. Just an amazing, amazing book. actually already have it, so I'm gonna start reading that tomorrow. I can't wait. But I think I'm gonna bind the whole series, but not in one specific style or color. I'm gonna bind each book in a different color of leather. Same type of leather. That way it looks consistent. But I think for this first one, I'm gonna go with a simple, kind of light brown color. Just a classic color. Nothing too fancy. Just because it's the beginning of an adventure. And when I think about the beginning of an adventure, I imagine those leather boots that you see in the movies. Those long leather boots. And they're almost always made of some light, brown leather. So I think I'm gonna kind of do that kind of shade on it. And of course, in a thinner leather. As well as I already have kind of decided on the type of leather. I'm going to go with Pueblo leather, which has a very unique grain and texture to it. And I think it'll look amazing on a book. A lot of people say that you can't tool that leather very well, but I beg to disagree, or beg to differ, because I have tooled Pueblo before, and I think it looks awesome. So, I'm excited for that. Anyhow, I'm sorry for geeking out so much about leather and book binding. I know those are pretty niche things that not a lot of people do, so I apologize if I bored you a little bit. I'm gonna switch gears here now, I promise. Earlier yesterday, it was time to do some meal prep for the week. And this week, I wanted to make some fettuccine alfredo. Now, I don't make the noodles from scratch. I might start doing that someday, but right now I just buy pre-made noodles. But I do make the sauce from scratch, and it's really, really simple. This isn't really like a secret recipe, so I'll share it with y'all. If you want to make your own fettuccine alfredo, it's really, really simple. So, the first thing you do is you get a pan, and you want to heat it up, but you want to put it on low heat. The secret to good alfredo, in my opinion, is going low and slow. So we'll put it on very, very low heat. And you're going to toss an entire stick of butter in there. It sounds like a lot, but it coats an entire you use, the better your sauce is going to taste. It'll taste good regardless, but I highly recommend you get some nice butter. Maybe like an Irish butter. That's what I tend to use. Salted is the way to go. So, you'll throw 1 stick of butter into the pan. While this melts, I like to begin chopping my garlic. So I use 2 cloves of garlic, and I very, very finely mince them up. Now, you can leave them a little bit chunkier if you like thicker garlic. But I personally like for the garlic to dissolve and melt into the sauce. So, I very, very finely mince the garlic. And then, once the butter is fully melted, I like to put it into the pan. Now, you kind of want to let the garlic brown a little bit. And again, low and slow is the best way to go. So just let it do its thing until you get a nice light brown color on the garlic. If you minced it incredibly fine and are struggling to see the color, that's okay. You can go by smell instead. When the garlic is cooked well enough in that butter, you'll smell a very, very sweet, pleasant garlic aroma. It won't be super strong smelling or super light. You'll know by the smell. It'll smell amazing. After that, it's time to add the heavy cream. So, I use about 1.5 cups of heavy cream. And you're going to put that in the pan. And then grab a whisk and start gently whisking the heavy cream into your butter and garlic. They don't like to mix at first, so you want to whisk until it all kind of goes together. Again, over low heat. You want to bring up the heat just enough to get it to start to simmer. And you let it simmer for about 5 minutes. This kind of thickens it up a little bit. Not a lot, just a little. After it's done simmering for about 5 minutes, it's time to add the best part, the Parmesan cheese. Now, just like the butter, it's very important that you go with a nice Parmesan cheese. I'm not saying, cheese can get expensive. I'm not saying buy the finest cheese in all the land. But you do want to get actual Parmesan cheese, like a solid wedge of it. You don't want to use the grated Parmesan that you get in a canister. You could do that, but it just won't taste quite as good. So, you're going to take your Parmesan cheese wedge and you're going to grate it down. I don't really have a measurement for this. I go by the consistency of the sauce. You want to slowly add Parmesan cheese into your sauce and whisk it in so it melts. Oh, I forgot forgot to mention, you want to lower the heat after it's done simmering back to low and slow. So you'll slowly whisk in some Parmesan. You're trying to get, well, I suppose it depends on your preference, actually. Some folks really like a thicker alfredo sauce, something almost a bit clumpier. For that, you need more cheese. So you just want to whisk it in until it's at your desired consistency. I prefer something more in the middle. Not too thick, but not too thin. Just right. Once you're at the proper consistency, I like to add a couple of spices to it. Now, this is one of the few dishes where you rarely need to add salt to it. Parmesan naturally has a kind of salty taste to it, so I actually don't add any salt at all. Instead, I add a little bit of freshly ground black pepper, and then an Italian mix of herbs and spices. Now, this is just to your taste. You can put as much or as little as you would like, depending on the type of Parmesan you got. You may need to add some salt if you wish. My specific type, I don't need to, so I don't. And then you're done. That's it. It's nice and easy, and it always tastes amazing. It smells great too. Your entire house is just gonna be filled with that aroma. It's wonderful. And you just cook your noodles up and put it in the sauce. Nice and easy. And I will say, Fettuccine Alfredo doesn't tend to reheat super well. It kind of separates once you reheat it, so the cheese and the butter kind of separate. It's still good, but just not quite the same. So I recommend that you make that dish when you have guests over, because it's best to finish it in one fell swoop, because it just doesn't really feel the same once it's reheated. But yeah, it's a nice simple recipe, and yeah, you really can't go wrong with it. You can bake some chicken if you want to get some protein in there and mix it in with the noodles and sauce. Yeah, you can't go wrong either way, I promise. But anyhow, that's enough of tonight's cooking show, I suppose. I hope that you all have a great rest of your day or night, and that you all stay safe out there.